Good morning and welcome to Wednesday's edition of Football Spy. I'm Neil McClellan. And a relatively quiet, silly season apart from Manchester City. A lot of the focus this week has been on the clubs who don't have that much money to spend. Now, the Daily Mirror story yesterday that Rafa Benitez only had 1.5 million in his transfer kitty caused a huge reaction from yourselves. Now, the Sun and the Times report this morning that the Spaniard is going to spend the whole lot on the AEK Athens centre-back Sotirios Kyriakos. That's the usual spelling for that. Now, the Times also say that Liverpool have asked Hertha Berlin for £4 million to sign Andre Voronin to try and raise some more money. So watch that in the next few days. Now, down in the East End, Gianfranco Zola is operating within similarly tight financial constraints. But the Hammers are increasingly convinced they can sign former Arsenal target Marouane Chamakh from Bordeaux after going back in with another offer this week. That's at about £6 or £7 million, depending on which paper you believe. Now, Zola will not have the money for the sale of James Collins to spend, though, after the Wales defender yesterday turned down a move to Stoke, even after West Ham accepted a £5 million bid. Now, The Guardian quotes Tony Pulis this morning saying the club is under no pressure to sell Ryan Shawcross, with Manchester United and Liverpool reported to be interested. Now, one London club with money to spend is Fulham, who play in the Europa League qualifiers again tomorrow. The Mirror says this morning they completed the £2.5 million signing of Damien Duff from Newcastle yesterday, and Jonathan Greening was withdrawn from West Brom's squad at Peterborough last night as the two clubs try and finally close that deal. Now, Fulham have already made 3 unsuccessful bids for the 30-year-old former Manchester United midfielder, the last at £4 million. Now, the Daily Mail also reports that Fulham are interested in signing another Newcastle player, defender Stephen Taylor, though Everton and Aston Villa are also in the hunt for him. Now, Spurs boss Harry Redknapp was in Glasgow last night to watch the Celtic-Arsenal Champions League tie, and the Times claim he was watching the midfielder Scott Brown before weighing up an £8 million bid. Well, now for a couple of questions from yourselves. The TAC 1 asks, is Aguero going to join Chelsea soon? Well, that's looking increasingly unlikely, but we might know for sure tonight, because if the Argentine striker plays for Atletico Madrid in the Champions League qualifier against Panathinaikos, and is therefore cut-tied for that competition, the chances will shrink from slim to zero. Now, Attitude Era 1998 says, talk to me about Sunderland, any news on this, Dan, and also what's happening with Portsmouth, why is the takeover taking so long? Well, the Daily Telegraph has an interesting tale this morning, claiming that the prospective new owner, Suleiman El Fahim, is trying to finance a takeover by borrowing against future television income. It's a process known as securitisation. It's a way of doing business which saw Leeds go bust. Now, if the takeover doesn't go through before the end of the month, it's increasingly likely that I'll have to sell more players, with Distin and David James amongst the favourites. Now, Sunderland are interested in Distin, and he could become involved with Manchester City or Everton if the Lescott deal does go through. Now, the Mirror also reports that Sol Campbell, who left Stratton Park this summer, is considering an offer from his former England boss Sven-Göran Eriksson to become the player coach at Notts County. Now, Arsenal youngster Jay Simpson could be on the move again. The Daily Star says the 20-year-old striker, who was on loan at West Brom last season, is wanted on a similar deal by Sheffield Wednesday. And the Star also reports that Southampton, who need a lift after picking up only 1 point in their first 3 games to remain on -9, are poised for a £400,000 move for Colchester captain Dean Hammond. Well, that's all for today's edition of Football Spy. Don't forget to keep up to date throughout the day on all the breaking transfer news and gossip at mirrorfootball.co.uk/news. See you next time.